Hello, gentlemen. Welcome back. It's Confidently Wrong. I apparently have the voice of a frog right now, so we're happy to be here. I feel
Senor
pretty good.
Frog.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. I sound like a 40-year-old smoker, like a person
I was about
who's
to say,
been-
you are
I
a
am
40-year-old
40,
man.
but somebody who's been smoking for 40 years is what I mean.
The way Wes always coughing in the PlayStation chat, Wes, I bet y'all Wes is off that loud. Wes actually pretending like he all straight edge. Wes probably be on
He
mute.
smoke a pack a day.
What? Shit. I mean, he's smoking cigarettes. He's smoking that gas. That something that's strong. But Wes, I refuse to believe you not puffing something because you be coughing too much. And I'm like, dude, this isn't just you're a little sick. This is smoker's cough territory. This is you hit the Benjamin Franklin and or the Benjamin Franklin as the kids would say, the Penny Hodgins, and now you're just lit.
The cost of working with children in high school and then having 2 children of your own that go to daycare. This is what happens, and then my body just
you're
like
vaping in the car, and that's what's got you coughing,
dude.
Because all your teens are smoking in glass.
Yeah, it's like, what's that? Is that the mango purple blast? Ooh, okay, might have
I've
to get me one on the way home.
been having crazy coughs, man. It's no good, and I think that's why my voice is hoarse because like just coughing too much, it's like straining the shit out of my voice. All right,
He hitting that blunt, like it took something from him.
Well, maybe the graveliness adds a little gravitas
Hey,
for this
Yeah.
special episode.
if people just listen to my voice, they'd be like, "That man is a sexy dude."
Hey, a little
Quiet Storm with
little
Wesley
rasp,
Nakamura.
little rasp never hurt nobody.
If anybody wants to be my side piece, hit me up. All right.
Oh, I'm telling you.
What? Oh my god. That's
Applications.
out there now.
That's out of
Application.
pocket. That's out of pocket. Boy, this man,
Jen.
he know Jen don't listen
we
to
have
this
so
shit.
many receipts for you.
Boy, he know Jen don't listen. He's like, that boy talking real reckless.
She
It's
definitely
like
does not listen to this
Hall
show.
pass, not signed, don't
Hall
matter.
pass. Do you have a hall pass, Brian? If you met a real celebrity crush?
If I met a real celebrity crush, like
Yeah.
either I'm
gonna be like, I get it.
I'm
bro.
walking away or
Yeah.
I'm out the house. Like
All right. No hall pass.
there's no such thing.
No hall
such
pass.
thing.
And it's not looking the other way and be like, yeah, I get it.
I mean, she's looking for Michael B. Jordan, but
Okay.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
No?
I don't see that for her.
He's very, very attractive.
I don't see that for her. Who like? Do you have a hall pass? Is that
No,
what you're saying? Is that
no,
why
we
we're
don't.
bringing this up?
We don't have hall passes, that's for sure.
Anyways, let's
you
talk.
got a hall
Anyways,
pass? You got a hall
anyways.
pass?
Oh
Yeah.
my god, no!
You got one?
You cannot admit
He
it.
can just say it.
I'm
Okay.
avoiding this absurd line of conversation.
We know it's
have a-
Agent
We have
Carter.
we have a Netflix series to talk about.
Haley Atwell.
We have
That's
a
right.
net-
That's right.
We have a Netflix series to talk about. Adolescence.
before
Wes,
we
why
get
don't you
it-
bring us in?
Okay, before we get into that, I wanted to just do a quick status update on our NBA teams. So, Sav, start us off with the Pels. How are they doing in the playoff push here? Where are they going to end up?
Why are
Well,
you doing this to this man? You're just like forcing him to live in the muck.
All right. Tell us how the
Publicly.
Pistons. Where are the Pistons? How are they doing? What's their
The
outlook?
Pistons just
how
qualified for
far
the
they gonna
playoffs
go?
last night. They just got
Okay.
themselves. They just locked up
They
the playoff
clinched?
spot last night. Yeah, they clinched. So
Okay.
I got the email, so I signed up to hopefully get some playoff tickets. See how that goes. If it doesn't
Hey,
cost,
let's go.
an
Little
arm, a leg,
Caesars
a thumb.
Arena.
Yeah, my left eye. But the Pelicans are basically the best way to describe the Pelicans to folks who don't watch basketball.
I mean, it's
do
easy.
but don't watch them is that they're like the Pelicans and Sea Life you saw in those BP oil spill commercials where
Jesus.
they're out there and they got the people with the Dawn cleaning the oil and
Yeah.
crude oil off of the bird, and the birds are like dying out and they're like a borderline endangered species. That's what the Pelicans are right now. Just
Sad
a,
music.
Very
a
appropriate for New
a
Orleans.
crude oil soaked bird that is trying to get its bearings, and maybe it's getting some help, but we're going to need a lot more Dawn, a lot more toothbrushes, and a lot more time.
All right, so if things stay the way they are, we're not going to talk about the Pelicans because they're out. They've already been eliminated from playoff contention, and they're sitting all their guys.
Wings are clipped.
The Pels are not sorry. The Pistons. Best case scenario, maybe not best case scenario. In a most common outcome scenario here, things status quo, stay as they are. Nobody gets like majorly injured. What do you think they're the right way they're going to end up? Like, are they going to make it to second round, third round?
I'm not really
what you're
caring about
thinking?
them going further. This is just about them playing in the playoffs. I don't
So
really
you
care
think-
about them
You think
winning
they're
a
first
series.
round out?
I don't know. I need to see what the rest of the seeding and stuff falls out. It's just too early to tell. But my expectation for the team is I'm not here for them to make some kind of deep playoff push. This season already was above expectations. We're low-key playing with house money. One of our best players has been hurt half the season anyway.
Who's been hurt? Ivy?
Ivy. He's been out.
Mhm.
Yeah, and he's like one of our best since like New Year's.
Okay.
So,
see, that's the thing we don't know. We don't watch them on a daily basis, so we don't know.
I mean, look, all that to say, the Pistons are young. This is them just getting there, cutting their teeth, getting some experience. So,
okay.
Regardless of what happens, playoff experience is playoff experience. So, I'm in full house money mode. We can get swept, and I'm still gonna say, okay, cool. We're gonna be better next year, and this is a learning experience. So,
all right. So you
nowhere to go but up.
You think it's possible they make some noise in the playoffs, but not like super likely.
Not trying to give you the commit to saying how they gonna do.
I mean, that's
As
what this is for. You got the most expert knowledge out of anybody that's listening to this pod.
I gave you the answer though.
Okay.
I gave you an
I
answer.
really think though that there is a chance they could be like the Hawks from a few years ago and make it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals.
If, like,
and be
things
one of
break it
those
right.
surprise teams.
Yes, anything can happen, but right now it's just about getting experience. Like just one thing, one step at a time. Get some playoff experience. Everything else is a lovely bonus.
You just like sidestepped the question. I said like, how are they going to do? And you just said, here's what I want for them.
Yeah, but I don't know how they're going to do because I don't know the matchups and seeding.
You
I
should
think
be a
there's
politician, man.
I mean, nobody knows
the
the matchups and seedings, but like you kind of know about where they're going to finish. The Eastern Conference seedings are like fairly set now at this point. So you kind of know where they're going to finish.
I don't want them to finish 6th because that would mean that they'd face the New York Knicks in the first round.
So Knicks
and
are
I think
third?
that's a bad matchup for the Knicks, if
Okay.
I'm being honest.
Really? Okay, so Knicks are third, right?
My floor for them is a feisty first round exit. If they can put up a fight and at least figure out and learn some playoff basketball, then this is a overwhelming success.
Okay. I'm not sure what to make of that other than you're saying they should make at least the first round interesting, but you're not sure how far they could go as currently constructed.
You know what you want to take?
Brian?
They're going to win the finals. I believe the Pistons are going to kick ass to the finals. I believe nothing short of that will happen.
You definitely do not believe that. Get out of here.
Zero sarcasm.
Brian, where are your beloved Knicks? How are they doing? Do they seem like they're ready for a deep playoff push? Early in the year, they were one of the hottest teams. I haven't been following them lately. How are they doing? What's the expectation in New York? Bing bong. What are we doing here?
I mean, they've locked up the 3rd seed in the East.
Okay,
that's for sure.
Can't go higher, can't go lower.
They will probably. I think there's a tiny chance that they could dip below 3rd.
Okay,
but more than likely they'll be 3rd, and probably face the Bucks in the first series. And the expectation is probably lose in the second round, just like last year, when they'll either have to face the Cavs or the Celtics, who effing own the Knicks and have all season and will continue to do so because this team is it's just not quite there yet. They're not that aggressive. They're a little soft on defense where it matters most. They kind of have lacked some of the fire, intensity, and grit to will themselves to win in the same way, last season and even the season before those squads did, right? And we got to remember
that seems crazy.
Though this is a good team, right? They were overhauled days before the season started, right? So this is an experiment of a team to begin with, and they've done pretty well. They're on track to win 50 games this season in the regular season. So they'll do what they do. I think they'll be formidable, but ultimately will fall short of any sort of championship contending.
Okay. Yeah, that's hard. If they're the 3rd seed, Boston's going to be 2nd. They got to go against Boston in the second round, basically,
and
right?
Boston fucking owns them.
Holy
crap!
The Knicks are a good team. It's just this is just literally one of those
matchup.
This is no fault of the Knicks. Sometimes that's just a bigger fish. Like this is the epitome of just man. This is not the Knicks suck. This isn't the Knicks are mid. It's just the Celtics are really effing good, bro.
And it's a bad, like Wes was saying, it's a bad matchup. The Knicks are soft on defense. They don't contest the 3 very well. they are kind of bad at switching defenders when it comes to their offensive side, and so you can see like that's the Celtics.
Yeah, I'm about to
Right?
say. I was saying you're
That's
saying
the
on that, like
Celtics.
that's
It's
not
not a good
really the
matchup.
Knicks short. Like that feels to me less like a Knicks shortcoming and more like the Celtics do that to everybody.
Yeah.
They bombard you with threes, play hard defense, and make you switch and pay for it. Like that's why the Celtics been beating everybody ass the last 2 years. Like that's why they won the championship. So it's unfortunate, but this is one of those. Hey, you gotta look in the mirror and be like, hey, is this a us thing or a them thing? There's things that New York could do, but like the
Part of
Celtics
it's an us thing for sure.
Yeah,
Right?
but I don't think there's a move
The
that
defense being soft, that's an us thing.
Yeah, but that's not a move the Knicks can make that's just gonna make them better than like having the duo of the Jays and just what the Celtics got. Like you could shuffle stuff around with the Knicks, and I think this is just tiers. The Knicks are like the B+ student, which is good, maybe even the A- student on a good day. And the Celtics is that kid who got the A+ and an A on a bad day. And it's like, yo, man, you're not dumb.
Yeah.
They just really smart. And sometimes you got to hope that they have a bad day or someone gets hurt or
Several
they forget
bad
to
days.
study or,
Forget to
sometimes you just
study.
do bad on the test. Like, this is one of those, your kind of variance is your best friend because some people just a better team. It just is what it is.
We just got to try to flagrant foul and injure one of their stars.
Jesus.
Just got to play your best and hope
Take
the
them
Celtics
out.
suck.
We got to Tara Lipinski it, and that's the only path forward.
Honestly.
There's a
Like
reference
poison their
people will not
pizza.
understand if they're not 40 years old.
What are you talking about? Like, that's what
Is that
Nancy
even the right
Kerrigan,
word?
huh?
Maybe
Nancy
I'm-
Kerrigan. We're talking about Nancy Kerrigan,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Maybe I
yeah,
said
yeah.
the wrong skater. I forget her.
Oh, Tanya Harding.
Tanya Harding. Tara
Yeah.
Lipinski is someone else.
And then
Someone
Nancy
else.
Kerrigan, that's the one who got
Nancy
hit,
Kerrigan
right?
is
Yeah.
Why
Uh,
me? Why
Anyway,
me?
Anyway,
I'm
talk about your
surprised-
little Lakers
Well-
and the dry state team.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you feel like they're a little bit. They don't have like quite that grit on defense, given that like I know Josh Hart plays hard no defense. I know that OG Anunoby is an elite defender, and I know Cat has his issues and Brunson's a little undersized.
Terrible defender.
Yeah, but
Cat's an
undersized. right?
okay
Yeah.
defender.
Yeah, but he battles right. So like
But he
surprising
doesn't
to
make
me.
smart reads.
Oh, okay.
And is not always battling.
Gotcha.
And same with Brunson and Mikhail Bridges does well,
Yeah,
but like
good
without
defender.
the anchor in the paint, right? Cat is kind of a soft part in the paint. So
all right.
without him shoring up behind Mikhail Bridges at the wing, he's also kind of lets people go sometimes. It's tough.
Interesting.
It's
Okay.
tough.
Alright.
They're not as sturdy as you'd expect them to be.
Nice. Okay. The Lakers, I actually feel like we're in a similar boat. Like I could see us getting past the first round and then maybe exiting second round. This has been our most successful season since the bubble year, given that I think we're like 18 games over 500. Lakers are 18 games over 500, which is big for them. I mean, the past few years they've been like in the play-in as like the 9 seed or the 8 seed. And so really excited for this year. Obviously with Luka, he provides like a totally different dimension and makes the team a little bit different. And so, like you said, in terms of still trying to figure themselves out, it's only been 20 something games. They're still trying to figure themselves out. They're still not sure how to deal with certain defenses, and they're still kind of experimenting a little bit. That's how they got kind of walloped the other day against who did they play the other night? I don't even know. They beat Houston and they lost to some team. Oh, they lost to the Warriors. And the Warriors weren't doing anything crazy. Yeah, the Warriors weren't doing anything crazy.
I don't know. Steph was shooting the lights out. You sure they wasn't doing nothing crazy?
No, in terms of their scheme, like their defensive scheme wasn't crazy. It was just like they were just showing help. It wasn't, whatever. They were absolutely going off. Pajemski was going crazy. It was crazy. Like we just like let him shoot, and he was just like hitting these threes. Draymond hit threes. And Jimmy Butler had like an off night. He wasn't even that good, and they still like just kicked our ass most of the game. So I think we still got work to do. It'd be like I think like a lot of playoff teams, your range is kind of like, yeah, I could see us going out in the first round, but I don't think that's likely, given that we're probably going to finish in the 4th or 5th seed. The one bad thing is that the Warriors actually might be the other team in that 4 or 5 matchup eventually, and so that would probably be bad for us. We don't quite match up really well against them. They're a little bit faster than us, getting to rebounds and stuff. But I can see us getting past the first round. I think it's possible we win a second round. I think it's possible we don't. Like that's kind of a toss-up depending on matchup, like you said. I don't think we'd make it past the conference finals if we did make it past second round. I think that would be the upper end of where we would make it. We still need some pieces. So, but excited to see what comes out. Right, you don't know till you get into the playoffs for sure, and it kind of tests what your team really needs. So that'll be good to find out, and then hopefully over the summer you can make maybe one more move. That's where the Lakers are at.
They got Luka Doncic. It's fine.
Right?
Yo, I mean, really, like, yes and no. Like, the offense is
Oh
not.
my God.
Okay.
Here we go, Brian. Well, actually, I'm not really rich because, once you get past taxes and then having to do the paperwork,
You only have a few $100,000 a
$1 million
year.
only really ends up being like 500,000, maybe 600. You can reinvest it,
And
but
then
like,
all the upkeep on your home. Like,
yeah, it's really,
the
yeah,
more
it's a
rooms
mansion.
you have.
I have a mansion, but woof, what I pay in utilities, we're really kind of the same. Like, when you think about it, Savon, your percent of the rent in your studio is comparable to what my mansion is. Really, we're like salt of the earth brothers, if anything.
The problem isn't Luka. The problem is like our just offense like gets kind of stuck right now. It's not always very smooth. Like against the Warriors, we went over 6 minutes without scoring a point. Like you can't have 6-minute stretches where you're not scoring. I mean, your defense can be fine, but you're probably not stopping the other team from scoring for 6 minutes, and so you're just it's just not good. Sometimes we get a little bit mucky, I would say, just mucky, like they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, well,
so
you got a mid-season, so you'll be all right.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, it's fine. It's like understandable. Just with 7 games to go or whatever, we may not be able to quite put it all together yet this year, and that's fine.
My heart
All right.
bleeds for you.
Let's do it. So we're gonna talk about. Thank you, Savon, for your sympathy here in this moment. Did you see that? Did you see that, guys? Friends, listeners of the pod, Savon just showing some solidarity there.
Yep, a masterclass in sarcasm.
So sincere.
It was so sincere. Man, you're like a brother to me, Savon. Thank you so much. Getting into the Netflix show, Adolescence. It's been kind of blowing up my my social media. People have been talking about it. It's showing up in regular mainstream media. And it's this 4-part series on Netflix, 4-episode series on Netflix, about a story of a young boy and a family and kind of a town where a son in the very first episode, he gets arrested, and they say they're arresting him for murder. And this is taking place in the UK somewhere. And then from there we kind of branch out a little bit into like what is happening in the aftermath of this in the first couple days, and then about 6 months or 7 months later, where is everybody at? How are they doing emotionally? Where is the investigation at? Right, we follow some detectives as they try to put together what's going on. We end up in the school, and we see some of their peers and like what they noticed beforehand, because the murder he's accused of is killing a classmate or a schoolmate. And I didn't know much else going in. Brian, did you know anything else before we started watching this?
I knew that it was a critically acclaimed show.
Metacritic.
And you guys are gonna hate on that, and there's an eye roll there and a second eye roll.
Yes,
whatever.
Absolutely.
Oh, Wes, you rolled your eyes too? I was rolling my eyes so hard that I didn't see your eyes roll.
You guys need more pupils. You gotta have like a pupil underneath the pupil.
I'm gonna get a third eye that I start putting on my head for the pod that I can roll and give it a little extra.
Okay, Kyrie.
Anyways, Brian, you were.
So, this is one of those shows that's, as Wes mentioned, right, is talked about a lot in all various media, like different newspapers, magazines, whatever.
Metacritic,
because it is a very original and unique show. For its subject matter, for its drama, its acting quality. Of course, there's a 13-year-old actor who plays the boy in question, who gives this really intense performance. So a lot of that has been talked about. And then also from the craft side of this series, a lot has been said about how it's all shot in one take. So, you put all those things together and you do kind of get this marketing buzz around this show. So I knew, I heard the gossip and the buzz that was going on around about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you know what the subject matter was ahead of time?
I knew that it was about. I knew it was about a 13-year-old kid that
Okay, gets arrested.
was suspected of murder or something like that. So
Right.
I knew that going in, and it's one of those things that, like, okay, yes, there's buzz around it, and then suddenly you see that it's, you know, the number one show on Netflix for several weeks. I think ever since it premiered, right, like right off the bat. So it's kind of one of those things, like, man, we got to check it out.
Yeah. Like this is not necessarily like the normal, quote unquote, normal type of show that we talk about on the show.
This
but
is not a confidently wrong show.
yeah, but because so
And
many
I was
people were
surprised that
talking,
you wanted to cover it.
well, so many people were talking about it, and then it got buzz, and it was in my social media, and then like you said, it hit number one. It's like there's a good chance people that are listening to our show have seen the show or are interested in it and want to hear like what they think about it. Savon, what did you know anything about it? It sounded like you hadn't even really heard about it before we started talking about seeing it.
All I heard, it was some show that was about a teenage boy in manosphere and just like that very, very basic bit. And I was like, oh, cool. It seemed like it was hot in the streets. And then that was
Okay,
it.
alright.
I just
Team
kept-
Boy in the Manosphere, like Joe Rogan Jr. Yes.
Yeah, just like, oh, okay, thing killing boy. All right, cool. Well, seeing people having fun. And then I'm like, okay, well.
And you
let's have
weren't
fun with that.
necessarily that interested in
Oh,
seeing it.
I wasn't gonna watch this until you in the
Okay.
in the
We made
podcast
you.
chat said, "Hey, we're watching Adolescence." I'm like, all right, we're watching Adolescence.
Okay.
I didn't have any better suggestions of other things that we could watch, so
No alternative. All right.
this was very much I'll do my homework.
Okay. So before we get into spoilers, Brian, would you recommend that people, like, if they haven't seen it yet, stop listening and go watch the show like right now, or is it better to like listen to us talk about it and then decide if they want to go back and watch it?
I mean, I think it's such high quality, or maybe not even high quality. It's just so interesting, right? Like it's one of those pieces of media that you can tell a great deal of thought has been put into it, a great deal of care and craft has been put into a show like this. And I would find it hard to believe that anybody who sat down with it wouldn't at least find it interesting
Yeah.
and thought-provoking in some shape or form, whether from a technical perspective, a story perspective, or whatever, right? So yeah, stop listening, go watch it if you haven't watched it already.
I co-sign that, Sav.
I'll add though is that yes, like what they said, but what I'll also say is that you kind of get the basic premise of this show. Like if you read the basic like headline synopsis, you kind of already know what the majority of the show is about. Like this isn't really a show, in my opinion, that's about a story with a bunch of twists and turns that catches you off guard. This really much to me was it's about the journey, not the destination type show. Like you could, I mean, because I already saw some stuff about how it ends, but like it's not really the ending that's what's interesting. It's the story, the uncovering of why this happened. Because when you're watching it, there doesn't really seem to be a big case of did he do it or not. Like they kind of like that question seems to be answered fairly early on. The show really seems to shine when it's about, all right, cool, let's just ask some questions and figure out what the F is going on. But you could already know how it ends and still be blown away by just the journey. Like episode 3 in particular, right? You could know how the show is going to end, but episode 3 is still amazing because of just the execution and what actually happens, even if you know how it's going to end. So still try to go in fresh if you can, but this is, in my opinion, a journey, not destination type show, especially for how short it is.
All right. I think that is a spoiler a little bit to say for sure that he did or didn't do it. Because I think that was still an open question all the way through like the end of maybe the second episode or third episode. But maybe through the second episode. All right. Spoilers coming. We could talk about it. I did walk away from the first episode for sure, being like, oh snap, did he really? So spoilers are coming. Or are happening now. So if you don't want spoilers, you got to turn off for sure. But like, yeah, I did like at the end of the first one when they show the dad the video, it's blurry. You can't actually see it, right? And so you're just taking the word of the police that this is probably you in your Nike trainers, you know, and wearing the sweatshirt, but you don't see his face or anything. Like we don't get to confirm that it's actually him. We just have to see the reaction of the boy and the dad, of Jamie and the dad, and Jamie finishes the show by saying, I didn't do it, right? Like, that's how he finishes that first episode. And so I spent some of that time wondering, because we took a break between for 1 and 2 of being like, did he really not do it? Is he still trying to keep up a charade, or did his friend like end up swapping sweaters with him, and so like that's why it looks like it's him, but it wasn't him? Like, I just had that kind of questioning on like, is there going to be a twist on who did it? And then obviously later on, he finally kind of sort of comes around to saying like, yeah, I did do that thing, but that wasn't until episode 4.
Yeah,
Oh.
I think they do cast a little bit of doubt. Like for the most part, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
they got video evidence of this
Yeah, yeah,
kid.
When
But
they
they
had
do
boy
they
on video, I was like, ooh, big dog.
yeah, that was a huge reveal too,
All of-
because
all
for
the
most of that
plausible-
episode, you don't think that they're gonna drop that bomb.
You don't know what the F is happening.
They do make you think in the first episode, like, okay, this is gonna be like a
Strong
police
evidence or something.
procedural.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to try to figure out like what happened, and then blam, the video evidence of him stabbing a little girl. Like, oh my god. But yes, they do cast some doubt in your mind, to the point where, like, even through the second episode, I was like, oh, are they showing the friend? Because it's going to turn out that really it was the friend that did it, and they got confused in the video.
Yeah.
And then third episode, he says what I did, right? Implying that he's admitting that he's guilty for what was seen in the video. But even then, it's there's still some suspense and uncertainty about exactly what he did. And also, I think there's a bigger suspense around why it happened, and figuring that part out, especially when it comes to 13-year-old kids who are in conflict with each other. That's the question that we really have to answer. Like, of all things, like, why would something as horrible as this take place? And I think that's really where the show goes.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was saying before about the journey, not the journey part being was interesting. Because for me, as soon as I saw the bomb drop of episode 1, I was like, oh, he killed that girl. Like, for me, there was very little, because it was just it was how all of it came together of like, yo, if they're accusing you of some serious shit, B. Like, if there was a time for a kid to come clean and tell the truth, especially if they're innocent, it wouldn't have been how he was going about it. I think even if you were trying to protect a friend, in my opinion. So by the end of episode 1, I was fully on he did it. The really gripping part, though, is going to be the why and how did we get here in the first place, which that's what I was saying is more about the journey. By episode 1, I was already like, okay, he did it, but I want to know how do we even get here in the first place, because there's still so many questions I have, and that's what made the following episodes interesting, was not them proving his innocence to me, but showing why did he do this in the first place? Because for me, it wasn't a if, it was a why. But I get where you're coming from. But yeah, I was just like, oh yeah, he guilty as, oh man, he wrong.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
the video.
I was like, hey yo, B, they got you on video, big dog. Like, that's
those
rough.
are your Nikes, bro.
That's your shoes. They even said you changed your clothes. That's your shoes. You didn't want to throw out your shoes. Where your dad said you was at, I was like, dog, you do not have a leg to stand on. Then you come with that I don't know. I'm like, hey, pimp, I know the lawyer said tell you I don't know, but they're accusing you of murder. Like, now is not the time for you to not know something when you don't even got a good alibi. I was like, oh yeah, man, he did this shit. It's just why he did it. But oh man, wild.
See, I think I'm used to like TV shows and movies where like it seems like it's going one way, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, actually it's this, right? So I think that's why I was like, there's a chance here they do change it up a little bit on us in episode 2 or 3.
I had the Manosphere context, a little bit of that going in, so some of that I think maybe tipped me off of what the tone of the show was going to be, which seemed like it was more of a less murder mystery, more of analyzing the mind of someone who's done an awful thing, which I do think is two very different type of shows, right? Because you even said,
yeah, I didn't know what it was about at all.
It feels like a crime procedural, but I went in knowing already, oh, it's about Manosphere, young man stuff. So like my mind wasn't going to is he innocent or not. It was what's his motive, because that felt like that would connect more to some of the larger things that the show seemed to be touching on. So some of that maybe is just I was tipped off to the basics rather than going in totally blind, where maybe you're not even tipped off to the subject matter, so you have a little bit more. Yeah, so you're not even thinking of the show as it's about Manosphere and how young boys get radicalized.
No.
That context for me wasn't given. Yeah, I was like, okay, cool. Why? But that makes sense.
Okay.
But that's why we go into stuff blind, Wes, because even a little bit of precursor can
kind of
impacts how
shuts
you
down
receive,
some. Yeah.
or just impacts how you receive the information. You and I, with a little bit of context, changed how we viewed the first episode because I already knew a little bit of what it's about and you didn't. So
All right.
cool.
But
So
I do see like how Wesley could be thrown off. Even I, to an extent, was like, I had some lingering doubt, and part of it is because of how the series is structured. Every single episode is actually quite different from the one before it, right? They are all looking at a very different part of the puzzle, right? Like the first episode, Law and Order procedural, we're at the police precinct, and then they throw you a curveball when episode 2 we spend the entire time at school, right? And then episode 3 in a detention facility that is less sprawling than the other 2 episodes and really is just a single conversation between 2 people the entire episode. And then episode 4, we're at home with the kid's dad, right? And so each one of those,
and the hardware store.
and the hardware store and the backyard ravine of said hardware store, like each one of those pieces of this 4-episode series is so unlike the other that I think it does leave you guessing about, well, where exactly are we going with this? And I think that's a credit to the show. It makes it keeps you on your toes. It makes it more unique. In a lot of ways, to me, it felt like The Wire in some way, right? It's like, you're seeing something maybe at a more holistic level than the way another show might take this kind of plot and just focus on one tiny aspect of it, one character the whole way through from their perspective the whole time. It's not that. It does look at things from a lot of different angles.
You're actually, that's a good point, Brian. The shifting POVs, I didn't think about it till you said it just now, but like the shifting POVs of who's the focus on of each episode, and then I'm sure we'll talk about the one-shot part, but like that does actually, and now that I think about it, do a good job of really letting us stick with a character and really see how they're processing this, because we're sticking with them through the whole episode and we're watching them. Like, now that I think about it, the episode 2 where the cop is at the school, the detective, is actually really good, because now that you've phrased it that way, I'm like, oh, this is kind of to show just how out of touch the adults are to what's actually happening.
Absolutely.
But you don't get to drive that point home unless you're only sticking with the perspective of the detective. Yeah, it's mostly from the adults' POV, right? Like, even when they're questioning the girl Jade, it's kind of coming from the perspective of the adults. And once she's out the picture, it focuses back on them, and you really see, oh man. Like, even the son say, hey, I'm watching you bumble around and all that.
Yeah, it's
like,
embarrassing.
Oh, yeah, it's embarrassing, but it's like, oh yeah. Now that I kind of look back, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm looking at it from the adult perspective too. But then I'm thinking, oh yeah, this man is going around not knowing what the hell he's talking about. Wes, we've been in schools before. Now that I think more about it, I'm like, oh yeah, man, this was never going to be a productive way to have conversations with these kids and get information out of them. But you're right, Brian. That is a very distinctly different tone than episode 1, which is, I think now that I realize, it's more about the dad, low key. And then episode 3 being about
that's true.
Boy. Yeah, because
that is true. It's more about the dad.
After what you said, that now I'm like looking back, like, oh, so episode 1's about the dad. Episode 2 is about the adults not knowing what the hell's going on. Episode 3 is about your boy, Jamie, and the psychiatrist, and really just figuring out, because that's our longest time with him, of like, yo, this is what's going on with him. Viewer. You can decide
what
how
are
you
you
feel
like.
about this shit.
Yeah.
And I didn't see 4, but I mean, y'all made it seem like it focuses on the family back at home. So
yeah.
I'm glad you
brings it
pointed that
back
out.
to the dad, but like outside of the system, right?
Mhm.
Just like home.
Yeah.
What is the home life? Yeah.
I like that observation, Brian. Like that's a really dope thing they did.
The marketing has been fairly upfront about the fact that every episode was that they showed was done in one shot, no cuts. So like each, not that all 4 episodes are one shot, but like each individual episode for an hour is just, they never stop rolling. You just go from start to finish, and how, in some ways it's like a play. They you just can't undo. There's no stopping. What was your experience to that? What was your reaction to that? Brian, maybe you could talk about that as like a little bit, from the filmmaker's perspective as well. Like what you think maybe we don't know about that. But, from my perspective, in some ways, I think it worked really well, because it allowed us to kind of like sit in these moments of like transition to like breathe. There's There's moments where you're seeing the characters have to think about things while they're like walking from place to place or whatever, and it's sometimes just silent for a while they're kind of processing what just happened. And it was also kind of cool to see like how do you connect this particular set with this particular or this scene with this scene in slightly different physical locations. And they would use some tricks that were like the camera would follow one character and then somebody else would cross their path, and then it would follow that person, and then it would end up where the camera ended up wanting to be. And so some of that was like noticeable once you sort of figure out that it's all being done in this one shot way. That's very unusual for a TV show. But in some ways I also thought what were you gonna say?
But you didn't realize that it was one take, right?
Yeah, we were talking about this before the show. Me and my wife watched the first half of the first episode, and I had it did not register at all to me that was what was happening. And it wasn't until I think in between that and when we resumed it, there was like a day or two where I saw on social media that they posted that it was done in one shot only per thing, and they posted which takes they used for each one. And I was like, oh, that is right. That did happen, like that long car ride from the home to the police station. There wasn't anything really that happened in that time period, in that minute and a half or so when they went from home to the police station. Most shows or movies would have cut that part out completely. You would have just ended up at the precinct with the lawyer showing up, the solicitor, as you say in the UK, apparently. So yeah, I didn't notice, and it was like interesting watching the rest of that show, that first episode, being like, oh, they really don't cut. It's just like it goes here, and then the camera bounces here, and then it follows them upstairs, and then it comes back downstairs, and then you go into the waiting room, and then you come back into the investigation room, and then you go in the hallway and back into the investigation room. So, but what I was gonna say was, I think for that it was cool, but I think at times it made the series or the shows drag a little bit. There were moments where I was like, this is why most movies use cuts, is because this part is like, I don't, I could get it there. I get it. We're ready to move on, and it
can
didn't
be
move
implied.
on.
They went
Yeah.
from here to here. Cool. That can just be implied with a cut
Exactly.
rather than
Like, we
showing
get
them
it.
walk up the whole stairs,
I know.
following their whole POV.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in some ways I felt like, I'm glad they committed to it and they really went for it. And it didn't bother me that they had these longer transitions. I think they used them like okay, but yeah, I do think there was like, we could have just cut right there. That would have been fine.
They wrote in cursive for a letter that was like, dude, no one asked you to write in cursive.
No one knows what
like,
Q looks like. Just write a Q.
I'm glad you wrote in cursive. I'm glad that's a nice thing that you're good at. That's really, really neat. You could just write in print next time, dog.
No, but here's the thing with cursive, though. It looks elegant, right?
It does.
It looks and feels elegant.
Yeah,
and if somebody went out of their way to write you a handwritten cursive letter using pen and ink and, on a cardstock card,
special.
You would feel good.
Yeah.
Like if Tony sent you that and it's just like pouring her heart out to you in cursive, I think you would like it.
I think the vibe of this show, or I don't know if it's the genre or
Just
whatever
say yes.
it is, but I felt like it didn't take from the show by any means, but it kind of felt like they were just doing a backflip that was unnecessary. Like, dude,
Yeah.
I don't know. It felt like you're doing like a look away pass on a fast break, but no one's contesting it, and the dude's wide open, and you look away right after you pass it. Like one of those Carl Anthony Towns.
Those are awesome,
really flashy. Yeah, but it's like one of those.
Come on,
You
when
coulda
Obi
just
Toppin
did a-
goes through like East Bay dunks in the middle of the game,
It's
come
just
on.
like a dude. You did a spinning bounce pass for a wide open fast break layup when you could have just did a chest pass, and it's like cool. It's just one of those. I liked it, but I guess it didn't feel like it added anything to a show that felt like it was being carried more by the writing and dialogue. So this doesn't feel like a show. Like
Right.
I guess really cool shots to me stand out more when it's a world or a story that the visual element of a really fancy shot pops a little bit more. And it felt like for a story that's about a drama about a family dealing with, the incel kid killing somebody, this doesn't feel like the vibe of like, yeah, we really gonna do a long one shot to drive home to, I don't know, like I've liked one shots in like action pieces and the hallway fight stuff. Like it's not bad, it just felt like almost a gimmick. Like couldn't you have taken it out and all the good things about this show still would have completely been there, and like the ratings could not move at all? Because I don't know. That's how I felt. It was cool, but you could take that out completely, and the show would be the same level of quality and like enjoyment, unless you just adamantly feel different, Brian. Like, would cuts have made a difference to you?
I sort of agree with you, right? I do think a long one take, a oneer as they call it in the biz, is kind of a gimmick, right? It's sort of meant to be a magic trick because you are deliberately defying the conventions of filmmaking, which says, do a shot here and then take another shot of the reaction and then cut them together so that it feels like they're talking to each other, right? They're deliberately defying that standard. And so like it's meant to feel kind of like this magic trick, like, oh, how did they do that? But I will say that it has storytelling value, right? And not only does it put a stamp on this show, where I agree with you, like, yes, it would be very good if they if they just like composed every single shot and did it in a more conventional way, but I don't know that it would have the same amount of power and effectiveness as it does as a oneer every single episode, right? So a whole hour of telling a very complicated story, as I said, holistically, right? Like Birdman, the movie Birdman with Michael Keaton from several years ago is very famous for being a one take movie through and through, but it pretty much just follows him around the entire movie. And they also fake the one takeness of it a lot. They like hide cuts in the shadows and things like that.
It's a one take in theory, not in actual practical.
Yeah, it's more like that movie is like maybe 3 takes. But anyway,
still impressive.
Which is very impressive. I think what makes the use of that in this series really interesting is that, one, again, every episode is very different.
Facts.
So in episode 3, when it's basically just 2 people, it keeps you in the moment in a very different way, right? Like we are really just seeing a tete-a-tete happen between subject and psychologist, and they're sort of like trying to play chess with each other, and we're seeing that unfold in real time. And then episode 2, when you go to a school and there's hundreds of rowdy, unruly teenagers all over the place, and we're going from room to room, and we're dipping in and out of all these different pockets of a messy school life. Suddenly, and the fact that we're not cutting away ever, suddenly I feel like the tension is quite high. Like we're roaming around, we're feeling anxious because we're not cutting away. We're not doing the thing that you're supposed to do in film and TV, which is cut away. We're not doing that, and now we're just stuck. We're stuck in this environment, in this space, seeing like kids get bullied, other teachers be really ineffective, kids having emotional breakdowns. And now we're just in the mess with them the entire time. We can't look away. We can't go away. We're not running and hiding. And now we're stuck in it. And on top of that, because they do things like fly out of a window and have a police chase at the end of it, suddenly you're like, oh, damn, I think I'm probably going to remember that. Like that was wild. Because they don't give you a chance, and they really just commit to the bit the entire time. So I do think it sort of ratchets it up, the feeling, the intensity, the tension of the storytelling. And at the same time gives the actors a chance to shine. Because like the other point is that it does make every episode feel more like theater, a stage show, where the actors really have to bring it and hold your attention, because they're not going to be able to hide through camera tricks, through editing, through anything like that. They have to make the scene work and make you be with them to earn all that time that they're with, and I do think, like, yeah, very courageous of the show to stick with the drive to Home Depot, stick with the drive to the police station. But credit to them for having that conviction and making you sit through what is a very harrowing ordeal for everybody involved.
Good Lord, Brian. Jesus Christ.
Have I changed your mind?
You
Have I changed your mind?
might have changed my mind. Like, as you were talking about the stuff in the background and how it allows for background storytelling, and I put a question in this, I don't know if we'll still do it, but like, admittedly, as someone who's worked in a school for a decent amount of time, like, that was really good passive storytelling. Like, I will fully admit that the long one takes in the school of them doing the hallway transitions, I'm like, oh, that was a crazy accurate depiction of what it feels like to be in a school. Like, Wes, I mean, tell me if you disagree, Wes, but the biggest thing I noticed was that, when you're in a school, you can never have a conversation that's more than like a couple minutes without something happening. Outburst,
For sure.
something. So when your boy can barely talk because a kid either flies off the handle or kids are making jokes or disrupting class, some teachers are turning up, yelling, others are being more chill. I was like, oh, this actually is what schools look like. Because you can see some teachers are more military, some are being more chill, some got control of their kids, some don't. One of them losing his shit because it's like, all right, I finally got the class under control. All right, cool. Talk to this man. Fire drill. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh my God, the fire drill is wild.
I've had that happen though, where you get everybody to shut up and then just something else happens and it's like, oh my God. Like, am I tripping, Wes?
Nah, you're like, why did I work so hard to make that happen? And now it's just all gone.
That episode made me feel bad for you guys that work in and around schools.
But that's what schools is like. It's just loud. There's always something. You always yelling about somebody about their phone. God forbid adults from a different who aren't their teachers come into the room and suddenly it's just a madhouse. But to your point, Brian, I fully will concede cuts would have taken away from that. Even just them doing the fire drill lineups of like, I guess that was a one take where they had to do a full school transition, right? Of like lining up and moving out and
hundreds of extras, all timed perfectly.
And teachers trying to get kids. All right, no. You're 100% right. If we didn't have a lot of cuts, the one takes really drove that home. And then honestly, maybe I'm grasping for straws, but like maybe that feeds into why the adults are so disconnected, because when you look at the environment, you probably think, oh, no wonder the teachers and adults don't know what the hell is going on with the kids. This is a effing madhouse. They have so much more to worry about. And it feeds maybe into the theme of episode 2, which is, hey, the adults don't know what the hell is going on.
Yeah,
the cops don't know about the terminology the kids using. The adults are so busy trying to keep the school together that they ain't got time. And it's just noise, even when the fight happened. You go out, fire drill, one kid punch another kid. They got to figure that shit out. But then another kid come and egg it on, say, hey, you got knocked out by a girl. And now you just...
That was real.
I'm having education flashbacks of like, oh my God. Everything is just happening all at once, and I don't know what to do right now. Like, I was starting to rub my temple, like, oh, shit, I'm getting stressed out watching this. Like, I would hate to be a teacher. Can you imagine what's being a teacher at a school where a student has died, police are there, kids acting up, fights, fire drills?
Your teachers ain't shit.
I mean, I don't know if the teachers were bad in that scene necessarily, but they were just clear. But that gave the vibe of how overworked and flustered teachers are perpetually. You're right, Brian.
And then
I withdraw my point. You got that one, dog. You got that one.
I yield my time to the gentleman from New Jersey.
Thank you. I want to thank my parents for sending me to school so that I could talk good. I also want to point out, like, on top of that, right, like everything that you just mentioned, right, I felt all of those things about the episode in the school, and like, thank God I'm never going back to school. The other thing that is crazy to know, and I was reading up on the show after I finished watching it last night, they basically did 1 week of rehearsal for all the actors to figure it out. Then they would follow that up with another week of tech rehearsal, right? So now we're figuring out, like, where's the camera going to go, where the sound people going to go. And then they filmed every episode 2 days a week for 1 week, right? So that means for 7 to 8
2
days,
times a day. You're saying 2 times a day.
They did a whole take twice a day. So can you imagine doing that entire episode 2 in the school with all those extras, fire drill, the fight in the schoolyard, and then there's a drone shot at the end, and the cop chase, right? Twice a day for an entire week. So that means they have like 14 to 16 takes. And what I understand is that for that episode, they went with like the 14th take.
Oh man,
of
so
that.
they didn't nail it to the end.
which is wild. And then in episode 1, I think I read that
Second, right?
they use the second take, right? So there's just like so much stuff that's going into this process where, you know, like from a craft standpoint, I got to give it a golf clap. I'm like, yo, like you guys really went for it. And, you know, commendations to you. Like that's something I'm impressed by that. You know, anytime people like really put effort into something, like it's worthwhile. It's
That's why we have you on the pod, Brian, because clearly there's a level of technical finesse and how it plays into the storytelling that, you know, we need a award-winning director to be able to point out to us. Highbrow Brian.
You are welcome.
It's like the minding the game with LeBron and JJ Redick and now Steve Nash, and he's just
Steve Nash.
Brian's just a hyped up LeBron. Well, the thing is, what I hate is when filmmakers don't understand that you gotta. Yeah, you know, that's Brian right now, just getting. Yeah, okay, nah, good shit, bro. You know what I'm saying? You talk your stuff.
Hide all those microphones.
Did you guys buy the way they portrayed the way the kids were and like the culture that the kids kind of participated in, like having all, you know, when the son of the detective kind of explains like this emoji means this emoji means this emoji means this, and you got to know what this means in order to understand what the message really is, because like on its surface it does look a little bit plain, but he's like, no, that's not what it's talking about at all. And so did you guys think that part worked? You know, like I'm not someone who necessarily knows what all the kids are doing on their social media. Like I'm not friends with my students on social media, so I'm not seeing like how this plays out. I do see the effects of it in terms of like sometimes there can be longer lasting beef because kids are on social media and posting things, or they're leaving comments on each other's, or they're not leaving comments, which sometimes creates like some small beef. But yeah, it can be used as a way to like bully other kids, you know, and certainly can lead to physical altercations and physical fights at school. So I don't know, from that perspective, like it was like, yeah, like this sort of thing can happen. I don't know that like my kids have a secret way of communicating with emojis, though. You know what I mean? Like it's, for that part, it seemed like a little bit far-fetched that like these 13-year-olds have this whole other hidden language of the emojis that like has all these deeper layers of meaning that relate to this other subculture that's like really just lives on Reddit for the most part, or 4chan. Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's not
like
believable to you? That feels like the
Nah.
most believable part of like, I mean,
Like,
I think it's the same as when we were kids, right?
Most kids are just not that like willing to like learn a whole other language of what an emoji means on top of what it already
Don't
means.
kids make up their own languages?
Yes, that's
Isn't
the
that
point.
like
No,
the
that's the
essence
point.
of youth?
That's the essence of human, like just interaction. Like this is so. Let me take this one, Wes.
Dude,
I was agreeing with how they portrayed it, because even though I'm not a British youth and I haven't worked with British youths, there's still just certain broad strokes that's like, yo, man, this is what the kids are doing. You know, all of the social media culture. When I was a teacher, we had students who absolutely were beefed out because of Twitter and Snapchat. That was a thing. Like we used to have
that
meetings
happens for sure.
We used to have meetings about, hey, man, y'all are beefing on Twitter and this social media stuff is bleeding into your in-school interactions. So all the stuff with your boy, the bullying, all that, like that part, I mean, that's pretty standard part. Like that's not a new thing. But keep in mind, Wes, I think you're overthinking it a little bit. No matter what, when you were a youth, whether it was when I was young, when y'all were kids, whatever, you had slang and ways of talking and communicating, and your parents are like, man, what the hell y'all talking about? And that doesn't have to be just through emojis. That could be just through slang, the activities you do, the literal natural evolution of language. But like when I was a teacher, there was times when I saw the kids texting and all this, and I'm like, hey, I know that emoji clearly doesn't mean what you think it would. I think it means at face value. You know, I mean, we've watched it happen in our lifetime. Like we actively in our lifetime watch peaches and eggplants now refer to, you know, booties and penises. Like as crude as it is, that is the natural evolution of language. If I showed you an eggplant in the 90s and you'd be like, oh, it's an eggplant or a peach. Now, if I show you an eggplant, almost anybody will be able to read the subtext of, oh, that's not what they're actually referring to. So, and even in online spaces, language changes. I mean, there's examples. I'm not going to use them all in this space, but like, there's plenty of examples now of like, oh, I've watched how slang has changed and kids use different acronyms online to say, we don't say FTW anymore for the win. Now kids say other stuff. So that's, I think, was probably one of the most real. I'm a 31-year-old man, and there's times where I have to explain to my mom what some certain, I'm like, Savon, they put these emojis under the thing. What does that mean? I'm like, oh, they trying to say
Why are
blah
there
blah
water
blah.
droplets in here?
Yeah, so like I'm saying, so if I'm a grown adult and there's moments where I have to explain to my adult family what emojis and certain online slang is, it's completely reasonable that kids, and I promise you, there's kids now using emojis and stuff, and like, oh, I don't know what they mean by that. I know it means something deeper, but I don't know what. But again, that's why episode 2 is so good. You could even be tech savvy, but like the kids exist in their own world and have their own language, like we did. And at a certain point, which is one maybe a cool theme of the show, is no matter what you do, there's going to be a natural level of disconnect from you and the youth, and how do you reconcile that? But
oh yeah, for sure.
I thought that was one of the most realistic parts of the show, is just how kids interact, how they act with social media, parents not knowing what the hell going on. Like that was
part was believable. I was just saying like those particular ways of like, oh, we're gonna stick this emoji on here so everybody knows. I was like, I don't know. I mean, like our kids are just not that deep.
And I use emojis to do sneak disses and say stuff. I have put in our chat.
I don't know. Our kids are not that deep. They just say it. They would just say it. I put in our text chat,
Wes, a fax machine and a B as a fancy way of saying, yo, fax B, to
our
agree with something.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
I'm saying, but like kids, you are underestimating how kids be interacting with each other, man.
All right. It's fair. It might be
we did
true.
The same thing when I was a kid. There was all kinds of stuff. I bet if my parents read my messages, they'll be like, man, what the hell is this boy talking? It was the old stuff. IDK, my BFF Jill. Like, that hasn't changed.
All right. Yeah, I did like that. I think, you know, like in some ways I had to grapple with like, is there the way that like some of the boys on the show and the girls were aware of it around like this idea around quote unquote like the manosphere, or you know they were focused on like this idea of the 80-20 rule, or you know like girls like having more power and leverage in certain situations and stuff like that. And it's like it's hard for me. I teach mostly juniors and seniors in high school, so you know like 3 or 4 years older than the kids in the show, and it's hard for me to imagine a little bit like that there's that many kids who are so plugged into that particular subculture. Not that none of my kids would have been aware of like those kinds of things, but that like that you just wouldn't be able to like function as well as like our kids function in a school without like, and like to be able to like talk with each other and hang out with each other if like that was really the case, if you were really like on that incel spectrum. And so yeah, it was like interesting, like yeah, like I could see some of our kids being into that or like seeing some of that stuff, but I have a hard time believing that like most of our kids' social media algorithms are like feeding them that as like their primary thing. Not that they couldn't get some of that, but just that like I feel like a lot of their stuff is going to be like cars and trucks and you know the other things that they're into as well, more so than like the 80-20 rule. But I could see how that's also like that would stand out to a kid, right? If you're 13 and you're awkward and you're feeling like you feel like you're not attractive, or you don't feel like you get attention from someone you want attention from, or people, you know, like an entire group of people that you want attention from. How do you reconcile that, right? And like social media is right there to feed your worst insecurities around like, oh yeah, like that's because only certain people get the girl, right? And that could be something you click on more than once, and then your algorithm is already set up to be like, boom, okay, here you go, you know. You got all these like younger kid influencers who are probably just shitting on girls or shitting on like the situation or whatever, and telling you how you don't stack up and all that stuff. And I mean, like I could see that happening. It doesn't feel like that's what's happening in Austin, at least. But you know, I can't say for sure.
Austin isn't the outskirts of Liverpool.
Yeah. That's wild though, because I mean, I'm gonna be honest, Wes. Like I've absolutely seen. I have watched people I was homies and grew up with go down the red pill pipeline, but it's interesting.
But like, was that like most of your friends? You know, like I could see.
Here's the thing about radicalization. So the thing about radicalization is that I think you're looking at it as once you're at the inform, maybe what our boy Jamie looked like. But I think the biggest thing about what makes radicalization so dangerous is that it is a sliding spectrum. You mentioned that, you know, kids have their interests like trucks and cars, but a lot of algorithms that'll be how it insidiously starts to get fit in. I mean, I actually don't recommend you do this, but like, if you ever go on YouTube with a fresh account and you click even one link that's something that feels even somewhat right-wing manosphere adjacent, your algorithm will get flooded with it. I know because I clicked a Ben Shapiro video just to. I knew I didn't agree with it. I just clicked it because I was like, okay, what is this nonsense?
Sure.
Yeah.
And my feed got flooded with so much stuff afterwards that's like, yo, I think I have a certain level of media literacy and I know what my stances are. Well, I know this ain't for me. But if I was an impressionable 12, 13-year-old, you are cooked.
Yeah.
Like, don't sleep on how easy radicalization can happen. And we see it with the character Jamie in the show of like, it's not a one singular thing. It's a bunch of little things that start to build up and then leads into this outburst. But someone can become very incel and have these views adjacent and not be at the point of being violent towards women, but they have a bunch of other views. And again, it can be put on it in very slick ways.
Yeah.
I mean, straight up, like it's been a targeted thing through video games, through sports. Like a lot of these manosphere folks, it's a grift. So it's not coincidental. They know what interest young teenage boys are into and leverage that to be able to get a platform with them. But that's why radicalization is so dangerous, is that they get you in through activities that feels just like the regular stuff that you're into. You know, Jordan Peterson one
it's
moment is talking
interesting that
about
it
cleaning
was
your
like-
room and taking care of yourself, but then it turns into all this other stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting and really well done how it was like almost one step removed from that, though. It was like, it wasn't that the kids were consuming first-hand content of, you know, these like influencers. It was more that like they had all just sort of like agreed that like this was the scenario, and so like that's what their conversations were like amongst their friends. So I appreciated that. I thought that was actually the like most subtle part and like skillful part was it wasn't necessarily that he was a super fan of, you know, Ben Shapiro or whoever, you know, idiot of the day wants to be on the internet. It was more like we all just sort of accept that this is the thing because that's what's cool, right? Like amongst our friend peer group. So I appreciated that part of it actually the most, more so than like any specific thing about what they did, like what they were communicating about.
Yeah, I mean that's how radicalization works. That's why it was so good. It's like, hey, it starts with just planting these seeds that just have this one maybe somewhat shared opinion amongst a bunch of boys, and then it just kind of goes from there. That's what makes it so scary, is that it can happen so easily to most people. Like, you're not as sick. Kids aren't as safe from it as you think.
All right, let's finish up. Last question. So, and there's so much more I think we could talk about with this show, but also people just got to watch it, right? Like, and experience it for themselves. Was there any particular scene where the emotional, because I think this show does a really good job in every episode touching on some kind of emotional touchstone. There's a lot of high intensity scenes, not like violent or anything like that, just high intensity scenes where feelings come to the forefront. Which one kind of stood out for you? I mean, I'm having a hard time picking. I think one of the go-tos would be, you know, almost the entirety of episode 3, but in episode 4, I was really hit hard by the dad and how he's on this emotional roller coaster of, you know, in some ways this feels like a normal life in he's post arrest, the kid's in prison and he's with his wife and his daughter, and they have moments of levity, right? Which like you can't be sad and morose for every single day of every single minute of every single day of every single month for 10 months or whatever, you know, it was post his arrest. And they do have moments of like they appreciate life and they're living each other up, and it's someone's birthday. I think it's the dad's birthday, and then something sets him off, and then another, and he tries to ignore it. He works on his like his therapeutic, you know, tools, and then something else happens, and he's like, I don't really, you know, and then he kind of primes him for this other thing where he didn't want to be known for being Jamie's dad, or be recognized as that, and his idea of, you know, safety is kind of disturbed a little bit, and then he goes off on some kids, and then he and the wife have to come to like have a conversation around like, should we have done something different, right? Like, did we lead to this, and are we responsible for this? And like them having to grapple with that, like that their kid did something horrible, and them having to figure out like maybe we didn't do anything wrong, but maybe we didn't also do enough. We didn't like actually parent the way that he needed or something, you know, like they're having to like focus on that. And that to me like really got me, because it's like, yeah, you don't know, right? Like you're trying to do the best you can every single day, and like your kid does this horrible thing, and in some ways you feel responsible, and in some ways you know you're not entirely responsible, and it's like, how do you come to terms with that? And like there's no fucking easy answers, and he's distraught by the end around this you know, terrible situation that's all happening. So I don't know, that one stuck out to me. Brian, did you have one that was just like kind of either it struck something with you or pulled at your heartstrings in some way?
Wait, when you're asking this question, are you saying what made you cry? Because you were bawling your eyes out
I
watching
wasn't.
this?
No, I wasn't bawling my eyes out, but
That's not why I put that question.
I was
Were you welling
silent.
up, Wes?
I was not distracted by my phone. I was just 100% locked in on like the dad and the mom and how they were feeling, and I think it was a powerful performance as well, right? Like props to the actors and the director for making that work, but because it could have come off as very like trite, I think, but it didn't. I don't know.
The
Yeah.
parenting aspect of the show is also like really got to me. And I'm not a parent, but I have nieces, nephew who are young and stuff. I'm around children, so I felt a lot of empathy for these characters dealing with tough situations with kids. In particular, the moment with the dad watching his son get strip searched, and he's like trying to ask, like, is this necessary? Like, why are you going to do this? And the other adults in the room turn away, but he's just left staring, and upset and shocked and stuff like that. That kind of really got to me. And then another moment in episode 3, or like basically all of episode 3.
Yeah.
But
Right.
thinking about like the psychologist's perspective, right? She's trying to talk to this child who clearly has a lot of problems and a lot of issues, and every time that he's trying
You
to
say it clearly,
her-
and yet nobody in his life ahead of that really picked up on it.
well, they mentioned that, like, yeah, maybe we should have mitigated his temper tantrums a little bit more.
Right.
We
But,
knew
like, temper tantrums are
they
what
knew
kids do.
that sort of thing about
Yeah.
him.
That's not a precursor to murder.
Exactly,
Like,
right? Yeah.
hindsight's
Sure. So
2020.
but I'm saying, like, in context of that episode,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
clearly know that, like, this kid has problems, right? But I'm just talking about in terms of what was tough was thinking about, okay, like, how do you respond to a kid and who looks like a kid and does still act like a kid? How, like, you kind of, as I think as the adult in the room, you want to push him towards the right path, right? But she's stuck with this job of just assessing, and she she doesn't go out of her way, and Jamie notices, to contradict his moments of self-deprecation. Like, he says, I'm ugly and, like, people don't like me and whatever. She's not trying to pick him up, which is very much the adult reaction. And at the end,
Don't
he's like
engage.
asking, do you like me as a person? I just want you to know if you like me as a person. And she's like not engaging.
answer,
She's not answering that question. And I'm sure she's filled with a lot of anguish, because really, I think at the end of the day, she wants to help out somebody who is struggling. And I think a lot of us adults want to help out kids who are struggling because they're kids.
Yeah.
And that, to me, like, those moments were just like really tough and heartbreaking, because you want to do the right thing, but like you kind of just can't. Your hands are tied in those situations, and and for somebody that is so far down that path, like, there are other repercussions that need to take place first, but before you're able to really assist.
Yeah, or doing the right thing means actually keep putting him away, because
Yeah,
you need to do
exactly.
the right thing for everybody else. Like
there's a victim in play.
Yeah, like the main character syndrome of, like, okay, maybe in this main character version of events, Jamie, you want this, but from this person, but in terms of the larger community and one you've harmed, what's best for everybody is actually, yo man, you dangerous. Kind of adding on to Brian, for me, biggest emotional thing, just all of episode 3. Because again, I went into episode 1 not really having any questions about his guilt, more of just the, how did we get here? Why did he do this? This didn't come out of nowhere. Like, there's clearly more to this. So for me, it was episode 3, because that episode is the kind of episode of a show that you can do video essays for years down the line on, because almost every line, almost every interaction between them, there's loads of body language, subtext, things you can break down, even just a part of him having the sandwich and it has a pickle in it, and he don't like pickles.
Yeah.
Right? He said he don't like the pickle sandwich, but then at one point he still ended up eating the sandwich, but then you could look back, and I rewinded that scene a couple of times because it was, frankly, all of it was really intense and cool, and I missed a few lines. But and I'm sure there's bunches that I missed, but there's lots of
a lot of lines.
But there's so much
English is hard to understand.
But there's so much subtext between them in terms of the body language of moments where he kind of flashes his real self, and the moments where you can tell he's trying to manipulate the lady interviewing him, and he has moments where he'll flash out, and moments where he won't, and he has moments where he even shows his sexism.
I love when she goes, "You're not that in control."
Yeah, but like him trying to
"You're in control." She goes, "Well, you're not that in control."
Yeah, him trying to exert control, but then you can see the flashes of like, oh, this is the but this is the manosphere stuff that like is popping out because now he wants to use force and intimidation.
Yeah,
to try and get what he wants.
That's how it's supposed to look, right?
Because and his self-esteem is so low that like he thinks that's all I got. Like I don't got nothing else in my bag. I don't have a personality or good looks and none of this other shit. My bag is empty. My only move is be mean, be domineering, which you picked up from that, and then you even see how he doesn't resonate with some of the incel stuff, but then stuff like the 80-20 rule feel like that gives him an answer to his frustration. So but again, Wes, to the point of this is how radicalization begins. You don't hit him with all the talking points. You throw a bunch of shit at him, and then the things that are interesting root in, and then it's easier to draw them in later. So you might not be full on red pill, but clearly it's enough to where he has a low opinion of women, doesn't see them as people, and is willing to commit acts of violence if he. But for me, 3. For me, I guess the one that really got me was when, and I want to make sure I remember this right. He talked about how ultimately he did basically admit to killing her, but then he tried to make it seem like, oh, well, I didn't like touch her after or do anything afterwards, as if he bounced wildly between this like admitting he did an awful thing or saying like, not having remorse, but then also trying to frame himself as not being awful because he didn't do something worse. Like, I went after the girl.
He's trying to rationalize.
Yeah, he's trying to rationalize this awful shit of like, oh, I did something awful because I didn't go another step of awful. Really, y'all should be grateful. Like, I'm a good person because I could have been worse and I wasn't. Oh, I stabbed the girl, but I didn't touch her when she was dying. So really, I'm not that bad of a guy. Or, oh, yeah, the girl got exposed with the nude leak stuff, but I was going after her while she was vulnerable and tried to say sorry. So if anything, I'm a cool person, even though your motive was out of shitty power dynamics. But that's a scene that I'm like, man, you could rewatch that a million times and just catch so much new stuff between the body language of the lady, your boy, moments where he flashes out, moments where he tries to do it strategically, and moments where he's just a kid flipping out. But all of that was amazing and was some top-notch acting. I was like, yo, that's a 13-year-old doing all that shit?
Yo, it's wild.
That's tough, bro. That's you could
hand that man a trophy.
Yo, man, give me an award.
Hand that boy a trophy.
Yeah, man, get that boy something. But yeah, just all of episode 3, amazing.
Nice. All right. What would you score it? Grade it? I don't know. Metacritic it? I'm going 4.5 out of 5. I think it was very, very good. I think most people who watch it would enjoy it, or maybe not enjoy is the right word, but appreciate it, invest in it, and be invested in it. I think would be how I would put that. Even if it's not like an enjoyable subject, it's certainly a powerful one and a really well done story. And I was bought in, so 4.5 out of 5 for sure. Brian, where you at?
Most likely an A+.
Okay,
maybe not 100, but
no?
probably like a 95. That's still an A+.
Okay.
So some of that camera work got a little wobbly in a few places. I noticed these things.
It's probably when they were putting it onto different rigs. Like they ended up on the last shot. There's a drone that goes up above the town. Yes. And I didn't clock it at first. I think because the music was playing and it was over.
It also comes back down in too.
Oh, does it? So like after 15 seconds of it being there, I was like, wait a second, was this a crane shot? And then I was like, wait, no, it couldn't be a crane shot. Like how did they? Because they were moving around. So how did they get the thing on the crane?
They also had it on the car. They also like went up staircases and stuff. Like
it's pretty wild.
Just a lot of wild stuff.
It wasn't even like that wild, right? It was just like they just had to like be prepared to like put it on another rig.
It was just committed to the damn bit.
No, it was good. Sav, what are you rating this one? Even though you've only seen 3 out of the 4 episodes.
I give this show a solid, 8.5, 9 out of 10. It's a really good show. The big thing I'll say about this show is that well produced, well filmed, well put together, passion, all that good stuff was put into it. But this is firmly a case of it's good, but if you're not into this genre and like dramas and this type of thing, you might feel the way I felt, which is that it's extremely good. I don't have any notes. It's not bad, but this subject matter just doesn't interest me. So if it wasn't for this pod and this being required viewing, I wouldn't watch this on my own time. This does not take away from it being a really good show. So if you think you're into this sort of thing, you'll definitely like it. But if you're someone who already knows dramas and this kind of thing ain't really for me, I think you'll watch something good that also just doesn't interest you, which is fair.
I don't think there's that many
mature?
people.
How mature?
I don't know. Are there that many people who are, let's say, 25 and above, 35 and above, or 30 and above who wouldn't appreciate this? Like, I mean,
yes,
like
I know plenty of people.
I feel like
Dude,
that. I feel like
certain
that
people
number's
just don't
pretty
watch a
small.
genre. It's like I say, it's like a horror movie. It could be like a good horror movie, but if you just don't like horror, you're not gonna watch
This
that.
has more appeal than a horror movie, though.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, I know, but I mean, you're not
I feel
taking
you,
into
yeah.
account people's viewing taste. Like, if you just don't like dramas,
No,
like
I am.
me,
They all have the same viewing taste as I do.
exactly. So if I want drama, I'll read the news. And that storyline's already a crazy shit show. So
Oh my god.
I don't need this. I already got enough drama in the news and life, so I don't need this show.
The
But
Daily,
for people who do need it and like it, watch it. It's a good show.
the Daily from the New York Times, bro. It's just like it's stressful every single day hearing about the brand new things that are happening every single day. I'm like, why are we
So I'll be
doing
on
it
that
this way?
monster hunting.
How is this not frustrating? All right, friends, that'll do it for us. I think the next time we're back, we're probably going to take a week off, and then the next time we're back, we probably get to talk about the opening of what is Andor, the one that's coming next, or is it Last of Us?
Last of Us come out next Sunday.
Okay, so Last of Us, we'll probably talk about that premiere, and then we'll probably talk about that show and Andor multiple times so that we can wrap it up and talk about the series as a whole. So be looking for that. Make sure you're watching on HBO and on Disney Plus. Friends, we're out of here. Have a good one. Go Lakers, Knicks, and Pistons.
No, not the
Deuces.
Pistons.
Oh, not the
Bye.
Pistons?
Not the Lakers.
Deuces. I was trying to give y'all love. Fine, fuck y'all. Go Lakers. Bye.